In this video, I'm going to share with you how we 13x'd a business's profit in the year 2024, show you the exact things we did to make this difference. When we met with this business owner, they were looking to do a couple things. Number one, they were looking to increase their salary or how much they were getting paid. They were looking to start removing themselves from it and build a leadership team. They were looking to better understand their financials and how those decisions ended up either making them more money or losing them more money. What did we do in those months to help them become more profitable? Well, number one, the first thing we did was we started looking at historically what they spent their money on. So we looked at the last 2 to 3 years of financials to see exactly what is going in, what's going out, why are they spending that money, right? And we started to define, what's a need, what's a want, and what's a nice to have. So needs are, you can't run your business without them, right? That's like a bank account. That's like a way to process payments. And for each business, there's a few other things that would be under a need. If you have a physical location, right, the rent is a need. Then we went into the wants category, and these wants are usually things that help make the business more efficient over time. So think software subscriptions that you could be using. And then there's the nice to haves, and usually these are the things that you hear most of the people talk about on social media, and they're like, you can write off your car, and you could take travel trips, and you can write off all these meals. Yes, can you do that? Absolutely. But is it a way to run a business that's sustainable and long lasting and built more than just to enhance your lifestyle? Then you want to move away from those things. Number two was we started to look at the model. So the business that they had was a service-based business. There was one person that would see one person. That was the model. And I call it one-to-one. With these types of business models, they're not very hard to get demand because people like to interact with other people. The person who was providing that service was pretty much tied to how much revenue was coming in. Well, then you're going to have to pay so much to the person who's providing that on your team, and then the business can only keep so much. And so you're restrained or constricted on how much revenue you can bring in. And if you can't really control the pricing because it's a real competitive market or other constraints, then you're kind of stuck there. What we've started to look to do is how can we get a little bit more leverage in this area of the business? How can we go from one-to-one to like a one-to-many? So go from one person who's doing the fulfilling to a group. Or the second thing recommended was to build a product to fit an adjacent need or another need of all these people that they've been working with. So this company is pretty big. This year, they were able to close on over 7 figures. So there's a lot of people that come through this business. And so they have a lot of email addresses, a lot of phone numbers, and just a lot of untapped potential there. So if you could find a product that you build it once and it can serve unlimited people, well, then you could start emailing it and communicating it out to your list and then start selling that product. Now, the key with doing this is you have to know marketing, right? So there are some skills required to this. You have to know what are the needs that these people that you have on your email list wanting, or a problem that they're wanting to get solved for, and how can you communicate that to them. It's a little bit harder. You have to be a lot more skilled at marketing, but if you could do it, it can also help increase the margins of the business, okay? So that was step number two. We started implementing higher leverage things into the business. We started looking at the compensation structure. So sticking with that one-to-one model, they had over 10 people providing these services. So we were able to look at, okay, which ones were able to generate the most revenue for the company and cost the least amount, as well as some other factors like the quality of service they're providing and were they a good fit for the team. And so we took all those into consideration and said, hey, well, we're looking for these types of individuals. And we adjusted who we were looking for to bring on as new employees, new team members to the organization to help increase the quality, lower the cost. The next thing we looked at after the compensation structure was implementing a budget and forecast into the business. So a budget just means this is how much you could spend in a department or in an expense category. And a forecast means you can look out far into the future. Now with forecasting, you can put assumptions in for like 6 months, 12 months, maybe up to 18 months. But then after that, it gets really hard to know what exactly is going to happen because you're just looking so far out into the future. So the farther out into the future you go, the less reliable a forecast is. But the reason why this works together in combination is that if you budget, you restrict yourself, right? The theory of constraints. If you only say I have $100 to spend on this, then you're going to get really creative on those $100. So when you have less resources, it forces you to become more resourceful in the way that you're doing business. And so you're putting these constraints in different departments, different expenses, and then you're looking at it every single month. So the expenses actually came in versus our budget. Then we say, why was it over or why was it under? We make our adjustments and we move on. And so every month we're making these adjustments to the expenses that the company's incurring, and we're getting more accurate with our forecast because now we're saying, okay, got it. These are the trends that are happening over time. So we can make better decisions each and every month to know if we make this change here, what's going to happen 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now in the business. We wanted to make sure that the owner of the company got a sufficient salary to cover their cost of living. This owner was taking a salary that was like halfway in between what they actually needed to survive for them and their family. They were the primary breadwinner for their family. And the problem when you do that is if you only take, half the salary that you need, or maybe 3/4 of the salary that you actually need to live off of, then you're relying on profits and then a subset of profits, which is called distributions, to cover your other costs of living. They didn't have any profits. And if you have a business where there's no profit, well, then there's no distribution. So then that hurts you personally in your own personal life. And so we didn't want to do that. So we wanted to, once we had more room in the budget on a month-to-month basis, we wanted to add a higher salary so they can cover their standard of living. And so the last thing we did was when they first joined us, they had debt. And so they were struggling to be able to get to break even, meaning the amount of money that left the company and the amount of money that came into the company was at least the same. If you're in a position where the amount that's coming in is less than what's going out, you're in a deficit. And if you're in a deficit for too long, you have to figure out ways to artificially maintain your business. That's either through injecting or bringing in your own money, your own capital, borrowing money from friends, family, banks, credit cards, getting a loan of some type. And so there's all these different ways to like artificially keep your business running, but you don't ever want to take out money for that purpose. That means you've let something go to where your expenses are exceeding your revenue. You want to make sure that if you are in that position, you want to figure out, okay, what is the number we need to get to in order to become profitable again? One of the first things we wanted to look at was, okay, what's the path to break even? And then, it's usually a combination of cutting down on expenses and bringing in more money that's going to help get you there. So what's the quickest path we can get from where we are to break even so we're not losing any more cash anymore? So that was another big thing that we wanted to do and make sure we had in place. Okay, so now that I talked about these things that we did, here's where the results. So in 2022, the net income of the company was about 1.62%. Okay, so not bad. And they were about mid six-figure company at that point. 2023, they were a high six-figure earning company for revenue, and they brought in 0.68% profits that year. Then 2024 is when they worked with us, and they went from 0.68 to about 6.47%. That's technically a 13x increase, or over just around 6% increase in their profit from year over year. And we talked about increasing the owner's salary. They went from a $75,000 salary to a $125,000 salary. So that was an increase of $50,000. Not only did we do that, we decreased the debt by $54,000 and nearly cut the outstanding debt in half that they had on their balance sheet. And then the next thing that we did was we doubled their capacity. So their in-store capacity was coming up against a constraint, right? We wanted to get to break even as quick as possible, but when we did that, we started to run out of rooms to provide the service, and so we had to move to a new location. And when that happened, obviously that opened up way more capacity for more demand to come through. But then it also allowed the company to continue to grow. It didn't plateau at that point. And all those things are important, but what really matters, I think, are the impact that that company has on the community because it serves the people in that area. It was able to help out over 600 individuals that year, which I think is huge. And I'm hoping in 2025, right, it doubles again because this company is growing really quick. And another thing that they were able to open up and offer 10 more new positions inside their company. So generating business and being able to make a profit allowed them to hire these individuals. So we helped the community, we employed more people, the company became more profitable, the business owner was able to get paid more, and we were able to do an expansion plan all at the same time. This is the transformation that can happen if you have the right financial plan in place and the right financial management. So it's really important as you're scaling, as you're growing, to understand your finances, because if you don't, you're going to be left with break even or maybe even negative on your profits. But if you have the right plan in place, if you install the discipline, then you're going to be able to see that you can get a profit, you can grow, pay yourself more, employ more people, and impact your community to a greater level.